Alright, welcome back everyone. This is my final review on the Tusk D-Sport tires. This is at 3,000 miles. I will drive these tires just a little bit further, but I figured being almost exactly at 3,000 miles puts me at a good number for a review. So I'm going to start with the front tire. After 3,000 miles of roughly 50-50 riding, this is how the tire looks. I can probably string this out to, for sure, 3,500, maybe at a stretch 4,000, but I mean, some of these knobs are getting pretty low. And I really would, I'm just not as happy with the front tire. So the things with the front tire, when you're on gravel especially, what will happen is when you go to counter steer, let's say I want to turn to the left, I'm going to counter steer left. When the bike starts to lean over, the front will then wash out, so then you have to remove the counter steer, and then you're kind of in that oscillation of counter steering to lean over, and then it wants to wash out, so you got to undo it. And by that point, you just end up slowing down so much that you have to just crawl around the corner with barely any lean angle. So that when you have the tire at a higher tire pressure, like 25 and above, it does that really, really badly. When you get down to 20 PSI to especially 15 PSI, it's not as bad, but it still does it. So that is why I'm really not as happy with the front tire. Otherwise, the wear is pretty good. The grip is good. I've ridden this on very wet, greasy roads, as well as dry roads, sand, mud. It does pretty well on everything. The mud, some people in some reviews on this tire say that the mud performance is very good. Their mud must not be the same as my mud. The mud that I was on, this thing just caked full, and part of that is probably rider skill. Obviously, if you go faster, the mud flings off of just about any tire, but this really packed up bad with mud when I had it there. You can check out my review from a year or so ago on that. Otherwise, like I said, on-road performance, excellent. Noise, not too bad at all. This tire actually doesn't make a whole lot of noise, but the main reason why I'm changing it is because about 500 miles ago, maybe even 1,000 miles ago, it started getting some really bad vibration, and now as it sits, it's not even perfectly round anymore. If I put the front end on jacks and I spin the wheel, the tire will move in and out this way, and then also when you look at the tire this way, you'll see it kind of wobble like this. Now I've checked the rim. The rim is a little bit out of true, but not as much as the tire. So I'm thinking that's the tire, not the rim. So that is the main reason why I'm changing tires. I will have a video on that in a few weeks, most likely, depending on how much riding I get in over the next month or so. And I'm not going to spoil what the tire is, but I will tell you it is a Pirelli, but probably not the one you're thinking of. All right, coming around to the rear tire. Now the rear tire I've really, really liked. This is how it's looking after, again, 3,000 miles of mixed use, mud, sand, lots of gravel, lots of pavement. And the cupping on this back tire, the wear on it, is actually harder on the braking side than the acceleration side. And I don't even use the rear brake that much. That's almost entirely from engine braking. Most of my braking is engine braking. I don't use a whole lot of front unless I have to. And the only time I really use the rear brake is for, off-road, sandy sort of conditions like I'm at here. Then I'll use the rear brake just for stability. So the wear has been very good. The noise, though, so this is where this rear tire is kind of, not so great. This tire is actually starting to get some pretty bad noise. So if you look at how the pattern goes, you'll see it's very flat and then very flat. So it's kind of faceted between the main blocks here, the center blocks. So these two blocks are wearing down further than the main blocks, and it's making it hum pretty badly on the road now. Not enough to be annoying, not as bad as a lot of tires, I'm sure, but worse than it was before, because when this tire started out, it made no hum. It was perfectly smooth. It's just gotten more and more rough with its age. So what am I replacing this with? Well, I will spoil it because I'm replacing it with another Tusk D-Sport tire. This tire is not the grippiest. It does slide around a little bit on gravel and other surfaces. It's not very good with rocks uphill, but because it's hard wearing, and honestly the rear traction is not as important to me as front traction, I am perfectly willing to buy another one of these tires because they last really well. The grip on, you know, most surfaces is plenty good enough for me, and I've been very pleased with it. It's also a very well-priced tire. There's one more thing I forgot to mention out there, and that is that this tire is very stiff. So when you push down on it, it does not flex at all. These sidewalls are very thick and very heavy. That also means this is a very heavy tire. That is good and that is bad. It's good because it is very puncture resistant. I've ridden over quite a bit of sketchy stuff with this tire, and it has, at least as far as I can tell, never even come close to getting a puncture. And that is very good. So it's a very reliable, dependable tire that you could take out in the middle of nowhere and be reasonably confident that you're not going to have to remove the tire and put a patch in or replace the tube. That's good. The downside is because it's so heavy that it increases your unsprung mass a lot, and it makes the rear tire not handle very well. It really suffers from a lot of tire hop. Now, I will say on my bike, I installed an Öhlins rear shock, which, you know, mitigated that problem as much as it can be, but you still can't get around the fact that this tire weighs way more than a lot of other tires in the market. So just be aware of that. So those are my thoughts on the Tusk D-Sport tire. Should you pick up a set? Honestly, I'd say they're worth giving them a try. Even the front, with some of its issues, especially with its handling issues, I still think it's worth trying a set of these if you want, especially that rear tire on a bike like this. Works great. On a heavier bike, the wear is going to be a little different. Keep in mind, this bike loaded up like this probably weighs 350 to 370 pounds, ready to ride. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the tire change on the front, maybe the tire change on the rear. Until next time, see ya.